Knockouts in 3 counts starts now.
Ooh, what up, though? It is another Tuesday. This is Knockouts in 3 counts, and man, did we have a hell of a week and weekend between everything that went down with Claressa Shields and Franchon Crews Dezurn. We've got another big weekend for you this weekend as we're back at it with our guys Potters of Destiny and going to be bringing you another viewing party from DraftKings in Troy for the Elimination Chamber. We got to talk about all that kind of stuff. Got to talk about the fights. Got to talk about the lead up to that fight. We've got to talk about AJ Styles tribute and more. I think Ant from Potters of Destiny will be joining us at some point to talk about the party as well. Corey, how the fuck are you on a Tuesday?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. Busy, not quite spring cleaning, but yeah, full day of house cleaning. Got the whole house picked up today. Been working since got home from work, but you know, sometimes them things need to be done. So no real complaints though, man. What about you?
I'm just glad I'm not at work right now. But at the end of the day, I had a hell of a weekend. I am tired as all shit from said weekend, but I had a blast. Shout out to Claressa Shields getting another dub. Shout out to Franchon Crews for the time. Shout out to Sammy the Heat Worthington for her time as well. Dimitri Salita. We had all kinds of interviews. We had the open workout. We had the fight. We had all kinds of stuff, dude. It was a wild time.
Yeah, from everything I seen on the socials, man, all this clips and stuff that you were posting on the show page and stuff, looked like you guys had quite the seats, man. It looked like the crowd was hype as they always are for these Claressa Shields fights. I mean, definitely looked like an enjoyable time. I wish I could have made it out on this one.
Yeah, so we had shout out to Salita Promotions for having us. We had one ringside seat. We were up in the press box as well. J-Bone slid down there for the main event. I was in the press conference after the fight. But yeah, dude, it was a good time. Open workout was a good time. Great to be back at Downtown Boxing again. Again, that place is always a little crazy for me, given that my last fight was against a guy that used to train out of that gym. So it's always kind of funny walking back through there. But shout out to my guy Keith Paul Jason and Kiana Banks and everybody else that was down there covering everything. I got to run into past guest of the show, Caroline Vare, while we were there at the open workout and at the weigh-ins. I saw like I said, Sammy Worthington, like we said, we chopped it up with her prior to the fight. Dimitri kind of giving us a little bit of a lowdown for what they kind of had next for Claressa, which, that was a thing too that was interesting because he said that he thought that Shay Keneally was going to be next up for Claressa, or that she had said she wanted next for Claressa, and she's fighting Danielle Perkins, who, if you guys are new here, you can go back and check out my chat with her at the last when her and Claressa fought. And then we get to the fight, dude, and then Danielle Perkins fights how I was thinking she would fight against Claressa Shields, and man, produced a nasty knockout. But before we get to that, we had a great time at the open workout, and then when we got to the weigh-ins, that was insane, dude. I've been around fights for a long time, and fights are bound to happen sometimes at weigh-ins, but it was the crazy thing about it is that even though it started with Claressa and Franchon, it kind of was more their camps than anything. But yeah, man, it was going down all throughout Little Caesars. Definitely a little bit of pro wrestling. Like I said on Fox 2, shout out to our guy Brandon Hudson. If you guys haven't got to check that out, make sure you go back and check that out. I gave my thoughts on the fight and who I think is next, which Claressa said she wants to fight Shadeja Green next. So let's see if that's the next fight. I wouldn't be mad if somewhere down the line we see maybe a rematch with her and Danielle Perkins after the nasty knockout she had over Shay Keneally, because Shay, they got in there and fought, dude. it was a scrap. Plus, they got into it at the weigh-ins, and Shay had a wardrobe malfunction, and yeah, man, it was
bringing back the old school, huh?
oh, dude.
Wardrobe malfunction. Haven't heard that term since Justin Timberlake and
Janet Jackson.
Janet Jackson.
Yeah, man, it was nuts. It was quite the scene there for that. But dude, the fight night was great. I got to meet Jimmy Lennon, bro. Classy Jimmy Lennon. It's showtime. Dude could not have been a nicer dude. If you guys grew up on Friday night fights and like Showbox and all that kind of stuff. That one was cool. I seen him walk in the room where we were at for like catering, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, time out.
Hey, I know.
I was like, damn, that is Jimmy Lennon. Had to go up and shake hands with him, dude. It was like I said, that one was cool because he was somebody I saw at all the big fights when I was growing up watching fights. And then we get to the fights. I have a little bit more of a detailed breakdown in my newest article that's on KO3C.com, talking about the fights and some of the things that we had go throughout the weekend. I talked about this on Fox too, but we always make the joke on the show about everything being pro wrestling, right? And like people, there was all the backlash because of the big fight that happened and all that kind of stuff. But in a way, I almost feel like it helped the fight in some ways because it made I think it got a lot more eyes to the fight. I'm not saying by any means don't take what I'm saying out of context. I'm not saying that it was staged or anything. I'm just saying, although yes, is it not the best look to have, prior to a fight? Sure. Do we want to see brawls break out like that in the city when we have big fights like that? No. But at the same time, all that coverage on social media, I think ultimately helped the fight. And, after the fight, I think both women's respect for each other grew even more, and they were cool by the end of it. And both of them came through the post-fight press conference as well. So that was cool to see. You love to see some sportsmanship. If you guys are tuning in here, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, retweet, share the stream, all that kind of stuff. If you guys watch Claressa Shields versus Franchon Crews Dezurn, let us know what you thought. We had another big win for past guest of the show, Savanatini, against another foe who we have seen other past guests fight against, somebody we know to be game in Veda Masiokate. She got a unanimous decision victory in that one. Savannah looked good against a taller opponent. I think needing to, kind of helping her get used to getting in there and getting dirty a little bit, because fighting in close was definitely where she had her better moments of the fights. I brought up talking to our friend Sammy Worthington before the fight. It was a rough night for Sammy. Sammy dropped the interim super lightweight championship to her opponent, Edith Matisse, who came in there and clearly was ready to fight. I mean, not that we expected her not to be, but Sammy's been mowing through the competition. I think Sammy's willingness to kind of get in there and get into a dogfight kind of is part of what kind of got her in trouble. I'm not really certain what happened in between rounds. I mean, she definitely took some damage. She had a bloody nose and stuff, but like it wasn't anything that looked like super major. But then she didn't get up off the stool in between the rounds, and so we have a new champ in Matisse. Sammy talked about that in her chat, that Edith Matisse has fought, even though her record is one of a vet, most of her losses were all to like former world champions and stuff. So again, with that comes world championship experience. And I think Sammy will learn from this and be able to, grow from it. That brings me to Danielle Perkins versus Shay Keneally. This is the fight that I was most looking forward to on this card, to be 100% honest with you, because you have two tall women, which either is going to make for one of two things. Either they're both going to fight on the outside, and then it's going to be a boring fight, or they're going to say the hell with it and meet in the middle and fight. And Danielle Perkins, like I said, I feel like fought a lot more like I thought she would fight when she was fighting Claressa, in that she used her length, she used her reach, and she was so unorthodox, just jumping in and out. Didn't really have like her hands like in the traditional stance, you know, kind of just in, out, over, moving kind of thing. And in doing so, you know, her and Shay kind of met in the middle, banged it out a little bit, and then she just hit her with a looping right hook and just blam, cleaned her out and had Shay's lip, you know, split really good. And again, it's crazy because I got to chat with Shay Keneally as well, you know, and I really enjoyed listening to her to talk about the story of why she calls herself, why the Fight Mom name is such a important thing to her coming back, being a mother out of Australia and all that kind of stuff. But man, Danielle Perkins made a statement. This was her first fight since her loss to Claressa Shields. Comes back, gets a knockout win, and is the new light heavyweight champion of the world. And like I said, I think we could see a rematch with her and Claressa maybe after the Shadeja Green fight, if that gets put together. All right, that brings us to the co-main event. And man, oh Lord, it was headbutts are something that you see in, you know, fighting a lot, but very rarely do you see them where it's like the delayed reaction of it. In a T. Fulberton versus Joe George Jr., you know, we had two tall guys, but they kind of both were coming in with their heads one's kind of head was kind of crouched and the other one was kind of standing over top of him, and he hit him in the temple with a headbutt. He goes back to his corner, sits on his stool. I assume the adrenaline wears off, and he just goes out on his stool, just falls straight face first out on the canvas, like after sitting down on his stool after the round was over. And you know, shout out to Atif, you know, real sportsmanship. Stayed over there, was making sure his opponent was good. Obviously, that's not how he wanted to win, or not win, but you know what I mean? That's not how he wanted the fight to go, you know, and nothing but for respect for how he handled it. But I was really looking forward to seeing what we would see from Atif in that one. Before I get to my thoughts on the Shields and Crews Dezurn fight, what were your thoughts on that fight, how it played out? Was it kind of what you expected? What did it look like on TV?
I mean, well, real quick, let me jump into the co-main because, yeah, that was blowing up all over social media, and that really got a lot of attention when I was doing my research and stuff on the fight. And, man, yeah, that looked really bad. I don't know what ended up coming out medically or whatever, if it was like, you know, to me, it looked like it very well could have been the headbutt. And maybe I'm wrong. It looked like it could have been like a blood pressure type of issue where maybe he was like, you know, adrenaline dump type of deal, sat down and just went face down.
Yeah, but think about it though. Like if you get a headbutt, right, and it knocks you loopy like that, and then like you said, then the adrenaline wears off, man. That very much so could do that. Like,
yeah, I wish the best is what I'm trying to get at. Either way, I don't mean to disparage, you know, in no way. I just am speculating over here. But as for the main event, man, the Claressa, she's been implementing this interesting fighting style lately when she has people that'll actually fight with her. And it's just like she'll put herself against the fence or the ropes. She'll hit the, you know, shuck and jive and then hit some solid shots. I mean, she just looked like she outclassed her in there. She looked like she landed some solid shots. There was moments where you were like, one or two more, we could see a finish. So for me, is it everything I was expecting and more? I mean, we all hope for a finish, right? But I feel like it was a valiant effort from both girls is what I kind of seen at the end of the day. And it also looked like Claressa was ultimately the more skilled boxer as well.
I mean, ultimately, dude, that's close to what it was. I mean, realistically, I think with all the heat that happened before the fight, both women kind of met in the middle here, threw down, met in the middle, threw down, and really were just throwing hands heavy for like the first 2 to 3 rounds ish.
Yep.
What up, Chris? Come checking us out from Massachusetts. Shout out to Cody. Yes, I will be at the Autorama, and stay tuned because there could be something really cool happening at the Autorama, but I'll leave that for a later time. But yeah, dude, because the first few rounds, man, they were really throwing, and I think Claressa was liking the fact that somebody was going to get in there and fight. Because again, that's one of the things that I talked about headed into the fight. And I talked about it with Franchon, which please, if you haven't done so, go check out our chat with Franchon Crews. But a lot of the opponents for Claressa Shields, I feel like, are beaten a lot of the time before they get in the ring, or they, like the last time, again, I'd never wanted to say like happy to get there, but like Lonnie Daniels didn't really engage much with Claressa Shields. So me saying that, like, Franchon came in there to fight. This wasn't like, okay, let's dance around. Okay, I'm just happy to be here. Okay, I'm here to collect a check. All that heat that happened the day before they came in there and threw down. I feel like after about round 4, round 5, though, you could see Franchon's kind of gas tank start to go a little bit. And I think once that happened, then Claressa's superior boxing really kind of took over. I think they banged it out, and it kind of wore Franchon out. And then as she got worn out, then she that's when she overtook her with the, with the superior boxing skill, like you said. And then she had the dog ass entrance, man. Boozy had that bitch rocking, dude. Talk about set that bitch off, dude. It was a scene out there in the city. Mink coats everywhere.
I mean, don't expect nothing less at the big boxing events like we were talking about leading into this. That's one of the things that honestly is the funnest, not the funnest, but it's one of the funnest parts about going to the fights is you get to see all kinds of people in their nines. You know what I mean? They're trying, the outfits, the jewelry, everything. I mean, people really show out for these fights,
Bro, it was something else. I mean, even down to the weigh-ins, bro. They both had minks on at the weigh-ins. Claressa had a green one on. Franchon had fur on. Sammy the Heat Worthington had her some fur, bro. It was a night of the fights, man. And again, if you guys didn't get to check it out, I got to go talk about that with our guy Brandon Hudson of Fox 2 News and give my thoughts on what I thought of the fight and where I see Claressa going next. I think, and I said it in my interview on there as well, I think Franchon's stock goes up from this. Okay, she lost the fight, but she lost by decision, and to your point, got in there and fought. You know what I mean? It wasn't
didn't look scared, didn't look
not
intimidated or something. Went for the win. Even though it was ultimately unsuccessful, that's one of the things that we've said here on the show is that's the biggest critique is a lot of times it doesn't necessarily look like her opponents go in there with the expectation of them actually being able to get the win. They go in there with looking for almost a participation trophy or some shit, and that's not what we've seen in this fight at all.
Absolutely not, dude. Shout out to both Claressa and Franchon, man. Like I said, that was spectacle to be there. That's another thing I wrote about in my new article. Again, check that out, KO3C.com. Claressa Shields fights have really become a spectacle from the entrances to you not knowing what's going to happen, whether that be at the weigh-ins or the fights. I mean, be expecting a show because you're going to get one. Like I said, I thought Boozy was dope. We'll see what she's got for the next one. Great night, man. We will hopefully get some of J-Bone's thoughts as he was down there on the floor for the main event. And then we also had a we had quite the performance on the MMA side. We're not going to go through the whole card, but Corey, while I go handle some business, I will leave the floor to you. Give us a little bit of your breakdown as far as Strickland and his performance over your guy. I mean, I hope you're not crying in your cereal.
It ain't that serious, right? And I think Fluffy even kind of announced that after the fact, saying, my last fight, I learned my lesson, came back better, and see where I am. So I don't actually think it's going to affect him too much. I mean, obviously his run to the title and all that type of stuff currently, but Strickland really went in there and looked like something, he looked like a better version of himself that had previously won the belt. And for him to be able to do that and look like an evolution of himself in there, I mean, he kept Anthony Hernandez from really doing anything, getting any type of real momentum going. I don't know, background, but he kept the momentum 100% in his favor. I felt like there was slight moments where Fluffy would land some shots or something like that, but Strickland with his overwhelming, not pressure, but he was backing up, circling, but then still the one throwing shots more. It was like such an interesting style for him to be able to implement and be successful with it. And I can understand why, for somebody that was the slightly smaller guy, didn't appear to be the stronger one in Fluffy Hernandez. I could see why he was struggling, in a matchup like that. I mean, the jab was on point, the cross was on point. We've seen him hit. It was a night for Strickland. That's for sure. As for the rest of the card, though, I mean, we've seen the main card had some good stoppages and stuff on it, and the prelims themselves were nothing to speak of, though. I mean, I'm surprised that this was a traveling event, is how I'll, leave it with that. But I don't know. I feel like another big story leading out of this is the whole UFC going to Mexico during the big, seems there right now. But I don't know, man. Last time we seen Strickland on that level, he really that was the only time we've seen him, able to claim a victory in a title fight. And I think we could see him potentially being the next one to fight Hamzat after that, honestly. As for the rest of the card, though, let me get it pulled up again real quick so I can refresh my memory. Yeah. Oh, the doctor or Medic. I've always struggled with that one. What he was able to do, knocking the snot out of freaking Jeff Neal's nose, that was fucking nasty, huh? I mean, I didn't even know what to think in that moment. That was I was rooting for Jeff Neal. He was been on a big slide. I was, have been a long time fan of his and was expecting this to be the one where, he's taking on a little lesser competition and stuff. And for him to get slept within, I think it was like a minute and a half, and just nasty shots landed from Medic. I don't know, man. Top 15 bound, definitely got a big fight coming for him. But like I say, as for the rest of the event, it's a little bit of a letdown. In my opinion, we had Maziki, another one I'm going to struggle with. Ezekiel Costa, that crazy spinning heel kick that he landed against Dan Ige. That was also something. I don't know which one wins knockout of the night, but I mean, I'm glad they're both getting the new, finish bonus structure. But I don't even know how Dan Ige is a dog in there. We all know that. I mean, they had announced the fact that this was his first loss by knockout in the UFC. We've seen him lose many top contenders. No, not offensively, of course, but he earned his spot in a lot of those top fights. But to just in there and get done the way he did, I don't know. Cost is a real problem, man. I seen he goes by the nickname the Dalmatian. The Dalmatian seems like a real issue at 45. He seems like a real issue. Seems like somebody that could very well contend for the belt in the next, one or two fights. Sergey Spivak versus Ante Delia. I kind of feel like maybe Ante was the one that maybe got it done, but it was close enough where there was no real argument for me. I feel like Sergey Spivak did land some solid shots. I just feel like it was such a back and forth battle that I felt like it could have went either, and I felt like maybe it was the other way, but I don't know. Any thoughts on other than
Strickland
that?
Strickland looked great, dude. There's no way to put that. I mean, he looked great, and I was talking about with somebody earlier today, I think Strickland, as long as Strickland's throwing combinations, that's when Strickland's at his best. When Strickland's keeping punches in your face instead of like single shots are where people are able to start to land on Strickland, and that's where he starts to find himself in trouble. He looked great. I think Khamzat's probably next. I don't know that he wins that matchup just simply based upon the fact that Khamzat can maul somebody. If he ain't liking it on the feet, he always has that wrestling in his back pocket that he can use and has shown will use to his advantage. Uros Medic, who you were talking about earlier, that was a nasty ass knockout as well.
Also, the Jacoby Smith one too over Harrell.
Yeah,
that was something, dude.
That bummed me out. I mean, that was nasty, but it bummed me out in a way because I was really hoping Josiah Harrell would be able to bounce back with all the stuff that he had getting back into the cage. He's a guy that I've spoke to a few times about coming on the show and things like that as well.
And he was looking good for himself, though. I mean, ultimately lost. That only means so much, but I definitely feel like he's definitely somebody to keep an eye on as long as this knockout loss doesn't affect him that much, because he was able to contend with somebody who I do feel like has some real, legs for the division. And being that was his first fight in the UFC, I mean, I still feel like he has a potential for a bright future, is what I'll say.
All right. Well, speaking of futures and all that kind of stuff, that kind of takes us over to the wrestling side of things. Before we get to the wrestling side of things, man, we got to talk about our sponsors. Shout out to Cody Caudill, who I saw here in the comment. He's going to be down there with Michigan Street Unlimited, which if you guys are going to be at the Autorama, come check them out. 7 cars in the fleet. Going to be at Huntington Place. It's Friday through Sunday. Autorama is always a good time. They said Trish Stratus is coming through on Friday, but again, check out our friends over at Michigan Street Unlimited. Check out the fleet. Check out Cody Caudill and the boys over there. Tell them Knockouts and 3 Count sent you. And if you are a car guy or girl in the Motor City, make sure you come check them out. I mean, what's not to like? All right. Now that brings us to the wrestling side of things, which it's almost time for the Elimination Chamber. We're going to be back this Saturday night, DraftKings Social in Troy. We're going to be watching the Elimination Chamber. This is going to be the last stop before we get to WrestleMania. And this is a pay-per-view where, like, not that you don't always want that, like, and when I say by want that, like, not that you don't always want to kind of like tie up the loose ends and things with a pay-per-view. This one in particular, I almost feel like they kind of need to in a lot of ways, in terms of the fact that we only have like 2 matches really are announced so far for WrestleMania. We're still 7 weeks out, but the stories and starting to kind of form where we're going to go with it is what I need to see more of. But, we talk about,
I mean,
people go ahead.
I was just going to say how you've brought up many times on the show now with them, running it back this year and already kind of it seems like there just isn't the storyline leading into WrestleMania being, just a couple months away that there usually is at this point. So, like you said, I understand what you mean by saying they need to tie up some loose ends. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Punk versus Roman is going to be good. There's a lot of backstory there. Roman is not on TV as much as he used to be because of, health stuff and all the other stuff that he's done. And he's really earned the right to be in and out. Punk is on TV a lot right now, given the fact that he was gone for 10 years, But I think the backstory with, the Shield originally being brought in to be like Punk's bodyguards and things like that, to be where we're at now with them being in what is unpresumably going to be at least one of the main events for this year's WrestleMania. I think there's plenty of story there. You also got to look into reminding. I mean, granted, Paul Heyman is not with either right now, but he was very integral in both their careers, and we just seen Paul show back up with Brock Lesnar as well. So who knows if Paul Heyman is going to have anything to do with that as well. A lot of things that need to get tied up through Elimination Chamber before we get to WrestleMania. But before we get to that, we got to talk about, we saw what could be the end or the swan song for the phenomenal one, AJ Styles, who, look, man, if you have watched any of AJ Styles' career, whether that be only his WWE run, if you watched all the stuff in TNA, which if you haven't, I highly, highly, highly recommend doing. I mean, pardon the pun, but that dude, the phenomenal name is definitely something that is applicable to AJ Styles. You'll never hear somebody say a bad word about him. The matches that the guy had, from being champion everywhere he went, from WWE to Ring of Honor, New Japan, TNA, all these things, dude, you can't write a better career than what he had. I thought it was cool that we saw the likes of the Monster Abyss on there. We saw Frankie Kazarian from TNA on there. We saw, Xavier Woods come out, who used to be Consequences Creed in TNA. You had Jeremy Borash, who's with WWE. It's nice to see so much of the TNA presence, there for his last night. And then for the way that they kind of capped it off. I still don't know that I don't think that we won't see him again at some point, but man, the way that they put that off, the stuff that he said to his wife was beautiful. And wanting to have the time with his kids, which I can totally understand and appreciate. Yeah, Corey, you're still muted, dude. But
I was coughing too hard. I had to mute, but I completely understand. It's one thing you only get once, even if you have multiple kids and you can give it another chance, but you only get that time with that child once. So I completely understand that,
Yeah, man. And he's definitely a family guy. Everybody that has followed his career knows that. I'm just interested to see where it goes. Cause at the bare minimum, like, AJ Styles has got to go in the TNA Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see him wrestle in TNA again. I don't know how you do that given what happened with the WWE thing, or if WWE is going to kind of let that happen. Because I don't know if he's still, on payroll or anything like that. But again, with the relationship with TNA, I feel like there's ways that can happen. But again, having the Good Brothers there referencing the Bullet Club on WWE TV, you've got the MFTs having God, the Gorillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga, and Tonga Loa come over there, who were members of Bullet Club with AJ as well. I like the nostalgia of it, but then the cherry on top of all of it, and you could tell AJ had no idea. And then the Undertaker comes down on the bike, making everybody think, oh shit, they're going to have them face each other again. Because remember, they faced each other in the cinematic match, but it was the COVID WrestleMania.
Mm.
So neither one of them got to and that was the Undertaker's last match. So he never got to have another one. You know, not that I necessarily want to see the Undertaker get in the ring again. He already said that you wouldn't see the dead man character again, but everybody kind of thought that because the Undertaker goes, you and we got unfinished business.
Right.
The business being that AJ Styles is getting inducted to the 2026 class of the Hall of Fame, which you couldn't write it any better. And if this truly is going to be it for him to have a 10-year run to start at the Royal Rumble and then end at the Royal Rumble, and then, you know, he's going to go into the Hall of Fame. Plus, look what that says about the guy. Only has a 10-year run in WWE, you know, is still a young dude. A lot of times you got to wait a lot longer to be put in the Hall of Fame, but immediately when you retire to be put in the Hall of Fame, I think speaks a lot to the legacy that AJ Styles leaves on wrestling, which, again, I don't think you'll find anyone that has a sour word to say about AJ Styles. I don't know who I think's going to induct him. I mean, I got a bunch of names. Frankie Kazarian's the first one off the top of my head, just because, you know, they showed Frankie and Abyss on TV, and that was like where it all kind of started for AJ with TNA. But then again, you've got like Jeff Jarrett, who was the one that started TNA, or you could do, I mean, hell, you could do Kurt Angle, you could do, I mean, there's so many great names from the different feuds that AJ's had, but I mean, again, that shows again why his career was exactly what he says it is, and that's, you know, phenomenal, dude. So I can't, like I said, I can't complain about how they did it. I still, part of me kind of thinks that we might see more of AJ Styles at some point, maybe a while down the road once he kind of, you know, get some time with his family or stuff like that. But then again, a guy like AJ Styles, you know, I could see him being like, you know what, I'm done. That's what it is. But only time will tell. That brings us to the Elimination Chamber, which, again, if you're in the Michigan area, ourselves and Potters of Destiny will be throwing another viewing party at DraftKings Social Troy. We are going to have happy hour specials all night, and we will have the Elimination Chamber on and streaming with you. Plus, like I said, it's good vibes, good people. It's going to be a great time. Corey, you know, you've seen what an Elimination Chamber looks like. Mm-hmm. Which one would you rather have to fight somebody in, an MMA cage or an Elimination Chamber? Well, I get the card pulled up, because I'm just telling you from walking inside it, even though there's a little more padding than the original Elimination Chamber had, fuck that. Fuck that. Period.
Well, they don't tell you can't grab the cage in Elimination Chambers, though. They do tell you no fence grabs in MMA, right? So that being said, some of them Elimination Chamber events look like, you know, you could get real creative with them, you know, is what I'll say. It's a known, you know, ring for a reason, is what I'll say.
Well, I mean, and especially with the people that we've got in it, man, you've got Javon Evans is going to be in it. Like, if that guy doesn't do some crazy shit off of one of the pods, I would be extremely shocked. Like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's tailor made for a guy like that. It reminds me to the first Elimination Chamber, which you know, you saw Rob Van Dam do the giant 5-star frog splash, off the pod down to the ring on Triple H, which is ironic given the fact that we are getting to the release of WWE 2K26, which they're going back and highlighting the Attitude Era this year. We've got a Triple H cover, we've got a CM Punk cover, and then you've got the Attitude Era cover, which has got all the favorites from back in the day for old fucks like us. And then let's get a little bit into this Elimination Chamber card. We're going to see if we're going to make some picks on this. I'll give you the names of who's going to be in it and all that kind of stuff. You guys are watching in the comments. Let us know who you guys think is going to win. We'll start and end with a chamber. So, okay, we'll start ladies first. Let me get that pulled up here. All right. So we've got in the women's elimination chamber, we've got Raquel Rodriguez, Kiana James, Asuka, Alexa Bliss, Rhea Ripley, and Tiffany Stratton. I gotta say, them putting Kiana James in the elimination chamber and her winning that qualifying match on Friday definitely shocked me, but I like it because WWE for the last little bit, man, it's not been bad. But it's just, it's needed that kickstart. We keep talking about the kickstart. We're on the road to WrestleMania. Things need to be heated up. I did not think that Kiana James was going to win in a triple threat match against Charlotte Flair and Nia Jax. And you've got a complete newcomer's not the right word because she wrestled a little bit in NXT, but next to a Charlotte Flair and Nia Jax, if you tell me which one of these is not like the other, Kiana James is not the one that I would have thought going into that was going to get the W. So I'm interested to see what she'll do in the chamber. I think this is a big opportunity for her. And I think if she, can seize that and really take a hold of it, it could be, it could be a big night for her this Saturday in Chicago, regardless at this point, unarguably the biggest match of her career, especially given the fact that she's kind of been like the mouthpiece for Julia. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing what we see with that. I like that Raquel Rodriguez is in there. You heard me say in the Royal Rumble, I think that she's next up, dude. I think somewhere within 2026, we see Raquel Rodriguez as a world champ, just like we saw her as champion in NXT. I think, and then somebody like her who is such a force and a terror in the women's division inside an elimination chamber, I feel bad for the other women because I feel like somebody's about to get launched across this motherfucker. But hey, it's not me, so it's okay. As far as who I got winning, when you got names like Rhea Ripley, Alexa Bliss, Tiffany Stratton, Asuka, it literally could be anybody. While like I said, I'm impressed with what Kiana James did. The winner of this is going to face Jade Cargill at WrestleMania because we saw on Raw Liv Morgan chose Stephanie Vaquer. We're going to see them two for the women's world championship at WrestleMania, and the winner of this will face Jade Cargill. When I look at who's in there, though, man, there's two names that jump out, especially given the fact that the winner is going to be fighting Jade Cargill. Now, visualize both of these in your head and you tell me which matchup sounds better to you. Now, these are both going to be visually, and I don't mean visually appealing just because they're beautiful. I mean, Jade Cargill is a fucking specimen, dude. Like, flat out. Like, take all that out of that. Just the athlete alone is a savage. You talk about Rhea Ripley, might unarguably maybe be the strongest woman in all of WWE. And again, as I've said, you got Raquel Rodriguez, who I think very well could be your dark horse to come out here and win this. And then what happens if we run into a situation where, let's say she goes and she wins and then somehow beats Jade at WrestleMania? Well, now Judgment Day could have all the women's titles, or Raquel could say, fuck y'all, and try to take them all. So out of a potential matchup between Raquel Rodriguez and Jade, Rhea Ripley and Jade, Tiffany Stratton and Jade, or Raquel Rodriguez and Jade. I mean, again, Alexa Bliss could get the dub too. I mean, who knows? And who knows? I'm not giving Kiana James the credit she should, but I'm just saying those would be my three front runners. Would be either Raquel, Rhea, or maybe Tiffany on this one. But if I'm picking one, you know what? Especially since she's in a tag team thing, I'm going with Raquel. Fuck it. Raquel versus Jade would be nuts. If not, I think Rhea versus Jade would be nasty. But out of the names that I've mentioned, what do you think would be the best matchup that we could see at WrestleMania? What do you think would be the most visually appealing? Now, and I don't, and again, don't mean his look style.
I understand. I understand
What do you think is going to be the best matchup that we could see out of that, or most?
I could definitely see how big of a push they were doing with the Raquel thing, that it could be her. You know, I mean, we've seen with the Royal Rumble how you were going into it talking about how she was your dark horse and how she stuck around almost the whole time. So it wouldn't necessarily surprise me, but I feel like they have a real way of going back to their kind of blue bloods while making their prospects still look good. So I don't know. I'm going to agree with you that it's probably it very well might be Raquel, but I don't know, you know.
It's just interesting, bro. It could go any way, but I'm just saying those. Look at the Amazon like type matchups that we could have come out of this, come WrestleMania. But I think whoever it is, it needs to be something to where it's like that marquee type matchup where it's like Godzilla meets King Kong, and I only use that as like the example because you got the Storm reference with Jade and all that kind of thing. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm going to go with Raquel on this one. If Raquel doesn't win, though, hell, I wouldn't mind seeing Rhea and Jade, though. Rhea and Jade would be a dog-ass match. I feel like somebody would be getting fucked up in that one. But let's get to some of these not undercard, but I mean, obviously the Elimination Chambers are like the two big matches on that because you can't call a world title match an undercard. We've got AJ Lee is going to be taking on Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental Championship in Chicago. Mind you, let's remind everybody that CM Punk and AJ live in Chicago. Becky's been champ for a minute. AJ had quite the return when she came back at WrestlePalooza and all that stuff. But then she's been kind of away for a little while. We saw her come back to help her friend Maxine Dupree. And now they've kind of picked things back up with Becky Lynch. With it being Chicago and Punk being champion too, and knowing how WWE is with moments and stuff, I think that AJ Lee is probably going to get the dub on Becky Lynch, and her and Punk might be walking out with the men's and women's world titles as husband and wife on this one personally. So we're going to see what happens with that. We've also got, let me get the next match on the thing. And we've also got the only other match outside of the men's chamber is going to be the world title match between CM Punk and Finn Balor. I love that Finn Balor is still in the mix. You know, he never really got his chance again after winning the, Universal title, dude, and then getting hurt in the match with Seth Rollins. And all that time it's been since that's happened. You know, this is his first real crack with the world title in a while. I mean, obviously they had the match recently, but I'm saying before this run with Punk, it had been a long time for Finn being out of the title picture. I like what we're seeing. I kind of feel like they're going to use this to kind of be like the split for the Judgment Day. I think, we've already kind of seen the fractures in it. I think that Liv and Dom might end up being baby faces out of this, or maybe Finn's the baby face. But I'd love to see Finn Balor kind of back on his own. It would be interesting, and I don't think they'll do it, but I put it in the graphic that we made for our promo, but man, if we saw Demon Finn Balor come out to fight CM Punk, I think that would add a whole nother level to it. I don't know that we'll see it because, like I said, typically when he brings out the demon, there's story to it, and it's been a long, drawn out battle. But this one's got a little bit of story to it. I think Punk is going to retain the title on this one. Again, I think him and AJ are going to kind of have the moment and celebrate with the titles. But I don't know. I am really expecting CM Punk and Finn Balor, if everything goes how it should, that is going to be a banger of a fucking match. That brings us to the men's elimination chamber. The men's elimination chamber is going to be Randy Orton versus LA Knight versus Cody Rhodes versus Javon Evans versus Trick Williams versus Yeet Jey Uso. Quite the interesting lineup on this one. I shout out to Big Bronson Reed, who if you guys are new here, you can go back out and check our chat with him from from Royal Rumble 2024, where we got to talk to him. Big Volk fan. But he tore his bicep in the qualifier match that Jey Uso won on Raw. It was nasty. You could immediately see his arm was fucked up. And Jey Uso gets the dub, is now going into the chamber. That being said, man, I feel like WWE is kind of in a time where things need to be shaken up. I would love to see because that means whoever wins this, the same as we know that Jade is going to be the one that faces the winner of the women's one. That's most likely going to be the opponent for Drew McIntyre. Part of me wonders if something will kind of happen between Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. That's definitely a feud that I would like to see kind of picked up before Randy's done with him and Cody's history with legacy and everything else like that. I think the two of them having time to have a match at this point in their careers, I think would be fire. But as far as to who I think is going to win, part of me really wants LA Knight to win this, dude, because I feel like it's been so start, stop. And, the safe bet and the sure bet a lot of times is going to tell you that Cody Rhodes is probably going to get the dub in that one. Just off the names I mentioned, Corey, do you got a pick on the men's elimination chamber?
I mean, I don't know. There's so many different ways they could go with it. And ultimately, like you say, with them potentially going it, I ultimately am not the person to, make the correct.
I'm just saying 500 feet with the names that are in there. Who's going to win, motherfucker? You got to guess.
I mean,
if you're putting money on red in one of the names, who's it going to be?
Rhodes, I guess.
That's a good. I mean, that's a good bet. I don't know that I want to see Cody and Drew again at WrestleMania because they've already been fighting for a while. We just had the 3 stages of hell, which is how Drew won the belt in the first place. Cody, like I said, like if you look at the names, Cody would be the one where you're like, okay, especially because when you think about it, I mean, since the guy came back at WrestleMania 38, he's been like in the main event, like consistently since then. He was champion for a long time after he dethroned Roman. That's a safe pick, but I don't know, man. Again, we've already seen Cody and Drew a few times. I don't know that Cody and Drew is the way to go. And something tells me that maybe we could see, something between him and Randy maybe. And again, I kind of feel like because of the way that things happen with Bronson Reed. I don't think that Jay was supposed to be in there. Now, the same way Jay was champion before and how the fans got, behind him and that changed everything. Fuck if I know. Maybe Jay could get in there, Jay could win and be back in the title picture. But ask me who I'm putting my money on, especially since we're going to be at DraftKings, which you should too, this Saturday. Damn it, LA Knight needs to win. LA Knight, yeah, it needs to be, damn it, because they've started and stopped with that guy. The fans still love that dude. I think LA Knight needs a win, and something tells me that it can't be Cody Rhodes again. I wouldn't be shocked if Jacob Fatu gets in there and tries to fuck it up too. So I don't know. I'm gonna go LA Knight on this one. Says we got about 350 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, retweet, all those things. Again, shout out to our sponsors, Michigan Street Unlimited. Make sure you check them out. Autorama going down this weekend. Trish Stratus is going to be in the building. Knockouts and 3 counts will be in the building at some point. Once again, shout out to Salida Promotions for having us for the Claressa Shields fight. That was a great time. Shout out to Classy Jimmy Lennon Jr. Like I said, every opportunity we get to bring you guys content like that is a joy for us as well. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. You never know we're gonna pop up next. Again, we've got our viewing party this Saturday, DraftKings, Troy, Michigan. It's gonna be a good time. Happy hour menu all night. Get you some drinks, get you some wings, watch you some wrestling. You're gonna have a good time. We're gonna have the fights will probably be on as well. You got 25,000 TVs in that place. It's going to be a good time, man. And the Elimination Chamber, how can you not like the Elimination Chamber? I mean, maybe not if you're in it, but I'm not going to be in it, and I'm not going to be getting slammed on the steel, so it's all good. So until next time and in the in-between time, make sure you check out the Autorama this weekend. Shout out to everybody that got in there and threw down at Clip MMA on Friday as well. All kinds of stuff getting ready to come down the pike from knockouts and 3 counts, and stay tuned because you never know what could be coming. Make sure you go back and check out our chats with Sammy the Heat Worthington, Franchon Crews Dezurn, Dimitri Salita, everything that was Claressa Shields versus Franchon Crews Dezurn 2. And until next time, in any in-between time, hit that motherfucking subscribe button!